Hey, hi, this is Carolyn Cowan with Mothers in Prayer. I recently went to see a movie. It's called The King's Speech. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a really, really good movie. Colin Firth plays King George, and actually King George VI. And King George VI was our Queen Elizabeth's dad. And it's a really beautiful story because, first of all, he was second in line to the throne. His brother, who was King Edward, abdicated to marry Wallis Simpson, if you don't know the story. And also, he had a stuttering problem. So he was really fearful about being put in this position of king. He had to give speeches. In fact, one of his famous speeches was when he called England to war against Germany. And what really spoke to me through this movie was how much fear he had. Even though he had, to get over his stuttering, he had a therapist who was played by Jeffrey Rush, and he helped him through some of the mechanics of how to get his tongue working and just different little body motions to help him. But the thing is, he delved deeper to those fears and those places inside King George where he felt unworthy. And that really spoke to me. I thought, wow, how often does that happen to us, where the enemy just has those little things? Even for him, it was in his past, there was things that had put fear in, even how his father had treated him. And anyway, it just got me really thinking about how the battle is really in the mind, and how the enemy wants to prevent us from our calling. And I know each one of you has a calling, and I want to speak to those who God has called to do something, and you are in fear and doubt that it will ever come to pass. And I just want to encourage you, because I know I battle with my own fears, and we have the Bible to use as a wonderful example. Look at Moses. He was a stutterer, and yet God chose him to lead the people out of Egypt. And even Jeremiah, I had my Bible open to Jeremiah, and because that was a word that spoke to me when I was thinking at a time, God, you've really called me to do this. What do I have to say to people? But you know what I have to say? I have what God has called me to say, and I prayed about it, and I said, God, what do you want me to say to your people? And he said, tell them what's been happening to you. And I know for me, there's fear and doubt that comes in with the calling that God has on your life. And I just want to read Jeremiah. Says, before I formed you in your womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I sanctified you. And I ordained you as a prophet to the nations. And what does he say? He says, but God, he says, I can't speak, I'm too young. How many of us say we can't speak, or we can't do that thing that God has called us to do? And so I just want to encourage you, because when we think of this movie, King George, it was true. It was a real life story. There was a King George. He was a stutterer, and he led England to war against Germany. And also God knew that he was going to be a king. He actually chose a king that was a stutterer, and he may choose you. And what I'm wondering is, are you letting stuttering hold you back? That stuttering where we just can't do anything. We're literally immobilized in fear. And so I find for me that I have to do, sometimes I think, oh, I don't think I have unbelief, but it is unbelief. If I'm doubting, I have unbelief. So what we need to do is we need to renounce unbelief, confess our fear, confess that unbelief and doubt, and give it over to God. And then that breaks off the enemy's hold over you, and just say, God, build up that faith in me. And you know, another scripture that comes to mind is Jesus said this in Matthew 5, after he gave the Beatitudes. He said, you are a light, and you don't take your light and you don't put a basket over it. You put it up on a lampstand to let it shine. You know what? God has called you to let your light shine, and don't let the enemy and don't let fear and doubt come in to do what your calling is. It may be something small, it may be something great, and it may be just one step at a time. It may take years from now, but whatever that step is, just do it, because God will equip you. He always equips those that he has called. And so I just want to encourage you to step out in faith and step out in that calling that God has for you. God bless you. And I'm going to keep praying for you that, you're going to rise up to that calling that God has for your life. God bless.